I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, September the 8th. Yes, I made the change. I wasn't right on normal time, but I went to Felt's. Guys tell me about the old days, like up at Omaha stockyards, they'd have a big trash barrel burning, and if people showed up after Labor Day with a straw hat, it got thrown in that barrel. Went over a little bit because it's usually pretty hot down here, but over the weekend I wanted to go to Plainview, Texas and watch my sister and her riding club perform in their drill team exercise, and it was about half cold. So I couldn't put on that straw hat with a jacket. I won't be wearing this felt hat with a short sleeve shirt, and I've made the change and I won't be flip-flopping, but put on this latest hat that American Hat Company sent me. This is a 500X all natural, and boy is it nice, but I haven't worn it too much, just Sunday go to meet and stuff, but I'm going to start wearing it a little bit more this fall. But Feeder Flash is brought to you by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin is effective treatment with no BS. Pay for what you need and not what you don't. You don't have to send any kind of rebate in or anything. Just keep your cash and still get the same results that you're wanting. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards in Carthage, Missouri. What does the biggest stockyard in the nation do? The week after they didn't have a sale, and we're getting into the fall, they have a huge sale just like they're going to have here on Monday. 13,500 head. They're going to start at 4:30 in the morning, and they'll get right on them. They'll be selling big bunches within 30 minutes or an hour, and they've got a lot of cattle. They got a lot of every kind of cattle, but they've got 125 straight pot loads to sell on Monday at Joplin Regional Stockyards, guys. Check them out for more information and their schedule at joplinstockyards.com, or you can always go to DVAuction.com and watch all of Joplin's sales live and view and bid right there. Northern feeders implode, and I guess they couldn't help it. They would have done a better job if they could have, but from the very start of the week with the holiday there, they didn't even do a good job of bluffing. The packers knew immediately that they had quite a few cattle to sell. They've been running really tight and starting to build up supplies of market-ready cattle. Of course, the kill has been so tight. You know, they just keep putting cattle off and putting cattle off until they get huge, and it's backing up the cattle in the feedlot up north. Now down south, not so much, because you know, they haven't had any Mexican cattle to put on feed down here for quite a while. The guys in the southern plains, mostly corporate type feeders, they're not going to get out on the edge and push the market on these best cattle, and so they're running pretty short of cattle in the southern plains, in Texas and Kansas. Don't have many market ready cattle down there, but in the north they do. And like I said, they didn't even put up a good fight. They gave up early. Now the previous week's market of 245, it only got paid on a very, very few of the best quality cattle that they had. It was immediately already down to 242 and 243. That's, you know, $2 to $3 lower. And they were getting the best cattle that way too. So that was very, very bearish. And everything was lower last week in the cattle business and the futures and everything, except for cash feeders and calves in your sale barns, and they kept going higher because guys want them before we get any further into the fall here. But you know, on the fed cattle in the northern plains, you know, the regionals, they didn't even push the market. They just kind of held off and waited, and then they could just sop up what cattle they wanted, the best of those cattle, at very, very little premium. But the cattle in the northern plains and the cattle in the southern plains are bringing exactly the same price. Not that they shouldn't. I mean, I realize that those cattle, those feeders, up in the northern plains are worth quite a bit more than a lot of the cattle that they feed in the southern plains. But once you get them enough days on feed, and once they've got average choice or better carcasses, what's the difference? And so those cattle are worth about exactly the same, and they're bringing exactly the same right now. We're used to a $2 to $3 premium to the north, just because they got more packing plants up there, and they got those regionals that are always pushing the market, and got fat cattle auctions up there that establish a price. And we don't have any of that stuff down here in the southern plains. But that was just kind of a bearish mode that put over the whole cattle sector last week, and then having that big holiday on Labor Day, that didn't help anything else either. But we did hit $4 feeders. 8-weight feeder steers hit $4 a pound last Thursday in Valentine, Nebraska. It was pretty exciting to see that. I'm not sure if we're going to see that become much of the norm. Haven't seen it anywhere else on a large group of cattle, but it could happen this week. Got a lot of big sales coming up here, but we're sitting in here with the first time we've really fallen over a big bearish turn, and then last week's fed cattle trade was definitely bearish. So we're going to see how we come out of that. The board was down on both live cattle and feeder cattle contracts on all 4 days that it traded. So it'll be interesting to see how we start the week out here. I want to tell you about some cattle, commercial type cattle that you could order and have delivered to you. Might be worth the money. I'm always telling you about the nosebleed cattle, the whorehouse prices, the biggest and best. But how about the cattle that Ellis and Carter can put together for you down there in Central Texas? EC Cattle Company. These are deals that he put together and shipped mostly to the Texas Panhandle or Oklahoma Panhandle. There's a few deals that went to Southwest Kansas, but these are the delivered prices for these cattle. And we had steers and bulls there, 320 pounders delivered at $5.30 a pound. Had 365 pound steers and bulls delivered at $4.85. 395 pound of all black steers and bulls, $4.86 delivered. 435 pounders at $3.95 delivered. Here's a set that was a little bit on the plainer end. Still good enough, but about a little more crossy than what the others are. Weighed 435 at $3.86 delivered. Some weighed 555 at $3.66. And some cattle weighing 640 pounds delivered for $3.38. Now on the heifer side, they had little 300 pound flyweight black heifers at $4.58 delivered. Some 355 pound black heifers at $4.26. Some plainer 500 pound heifers at $3.56 delivered. Some that weighed 565 at $3.51. Some delivered to Kansas that were nice quality, 625 pound heifers delivered for $3.45. Now he's been getting a lot of orders for cows. Everybody's short of cows. He delivered several thin young open cows, weighed just over 1,000 pounds for $1,847 a head. Some short and solid mouth, back to middle aged. Still good cows, good working cows. Second and third stage, weighed 11.15, delivered to the Texas Panhandle for $2,880 per head. And then he had, and some of these deals would have been local deals that right around where his shipping barn is, that he picks up pretty much every year this time of the year. And some of these pretty fancy cows here that he had a deal, mostly young, all young. They were mostly black, had a few Charolais and a few reds on them, but they'd be pretty dang nice cows. Second and third stage of pregnancy, weighed 1,210 pounds for $3,600 delivered. So if you're interested in something like that, get a hold of them there at EllisonCarterCattle.com. Let's talk about your board last week. October live cattle futures. Of course, Monday was a Labor Day. Tuesday was down 12. Wednesday down 120. Thursday down 137. And Friday down 97 cents. With October contracts ending the week at 235.97. That was down 5.93 for the week. December closed the week at 237.45, down 220. Feeder cattle for September, Monday holiday, Tuesday down 52, Wednesday down 217, Thursday down 225. Friday was unchanged, which was kind of odd because the others fell. But September contracts ended the week at 359.82, down 4.95. October feeders ended the week at 357.90, down 6.57. Your corn, December new crop corn contracts, 4.18 at the end of the week. That was down 2 1/4 cents a bushel. November new crop beans ended the week at 10.27, down 27.5 cents a bushel for the week. And the hard red winter wheat for December contracts ended the week at 5.05 1/4. That was down 14.5 cents a bushel there for the week. Your fat cattle trade last week up through Thursday at 2 o'clock when they ended reporting there, 53,600 head sold. The fat steers and heifers ranged in price in the 5-area feeding region from 238 to 245. That price range was steady, but they were selling further into the bottom of that price range and not so much at the top. Your weighted average was 242.59. Negotiated direct cash sales in the 5-area feeding region up through Thursday. That was down 85 cents from the weighted average from the previous week. Dress sales ranged from 380 to 385. That was $2 to $7 lower. And your weighted average on dress steers 382.75, down $3.01. So it was pretty tough on the dress sales. Of course, that's all in the northern plains. On Friday, they had a little bit more trade. It was about the same levels there. Iowa sold 1,850 head on Friday, 24,000 for the week. Prices were same, 2 to 3 lower than the previous week at 242 to 243, and dress sales 2 to 3 lower at 387. Nebraska sold 1,800 on Friday, 22,600 for the week. Live price at 243 in Nebraska on Friday. Dress price 382 to 387. Kansas sold 250 heads all on Friday, 6,400 for the week though. That's not too bad for them. 243 was the live price. Texas sold 250 head on Friday, sold 4,700 for the week. That's not bad. It's just been a few weeks before that we didn't sell a hoof in Texas. But 4,700 last week. Live price ranged from 242 to 243, and those Southern Plains live prices were steady to a buck higher. Box beef cutout values were mixed last week. Choice cuts, your weighted average on all of last week's sales, up 94 cents at $413.60. Now, by the end of the week, late Friday, that price on choice had dropped to $410.76, which was about $285 lower than that weighted average. Your weighted average on all of last week's select sales, $386.72, down $122 from the previous week's weighted average. And by late Friday, that select quote had dropped about $1.50 to $385.19. Your choice select spread on the weighted average was $26.88. And all of that information based on 488 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter for last week, it was looking like pretty good. 487,000 estimated cattle slaughter for last week because we didn't have a Monday at all. And you couldn't compare that to the 565,000 that they had the previous week because there was no holiday. The same week a year ago it was a holiday, but they killed a bunch on the next Saturday to make up for that Monday that they missed. And so our slaughter compared to the same week a year ago turned out to be 61,000 head lighter than last week. That's a lot. Talk about what else is going on. Your Nebraska Angus tour is getting ready to start. We need your registrations. They're due September the 10th, which is like Wednesday. It's going to be based out of Valentine, Nebraska. So up there where the really good cattle are. It's going to be September 21st, 2nd, and 3rd. Now on Sunday the 21st, they're going to have a golf scramble, and then they're going to have some Nebraska Angus Association meetings, followed up by a nice banquet there. On Monday the 22nd and Tuesday the 23rd, they're going to tour some of the top Angus ranches in the world. And I mean, you'll see what kind of cattle they'll be offering for their bulls when their bull sales come up. But that is right where they raise the best cattle in the world. So if you want to see how that's done and take a look at them, you're welcome to go on there. All you got to do is sign up. Going to be spending a lot of time in Cherry County, Nebraska. That's God's own cow country, they call it up there. Going to be touring an embryo transfer facility. They're going to be touring a winery in the evening after the tours one day there. It's going to be a good time. If you're interested in that sort of thing and would like to do it, get right with it, because they need you to get registered right away. For more information, go to nebraskaangus.org and you can find a way there for more information. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index, which is a 7-day moving average based on an 800-pound cash auction steer, only auctions, ended the week last week at 366.08. That was down $1.44 for the week. And that's the first time that's been down for a while. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index was 363.96. Give you your cash trends out of your sale barns. You know, we didn't have any Monday sales last week to speak of, and not a lot of them to really kick things off. So we were a little bit slow getting going. In the middle of the week, we got pretty big, and then calmed down at the weekend. But didn't see any auctions that were reporting their feeder cattle selling any lower, really. So, you know, that lower market was just accumulation of a lot more calves in the mixed and a lot more balling calves in the mix. So, and those calves are pretty big sometimes, and they can pull the price down even on your bigger feeder cattle there. But market's still really, really good. We just hit an all-time record high on Thursday, so don't act like it's Monday and everything's terrible. It's going to be really good this week too. Your stick-out sale of the day, Crawford Livestock, Crawford, Nebraska. They had 3,650 head and a really good sale there. They had a market reporter, but he didn't call a trend. He just said it was a higher undertone compared to the last sale they had reported there. Crawford was your Superior Steel Sales, home of Superior Standard cattle equipment. Stick-out sale of the day, and you look at these big strings of steers and heifers that sold through Crawford on Friday. And these are the biggest and best, guys. These are big strings, multiple loads there. But a lot of them that were pretty impressive. They had a big load of 688-pound steers, bring 399. Two loads of 985-pound steers bring 357. Wow, that's getting up there. And they had two big loads of heifers, weighed 880 pounds at 337, and those were likely spayed. Pretty good sale there in Crawford. In the Robertsons, there are some good friends of mine. I really like them. Let's get some other individual quotes from late last week or over the weekend. How about Montana Livestock in Ramsey, Montana? They had a heck of a sale too, and they sold 71 steers, weighed 661 at 423. That's no cheaper. How about Payne County Stockyards in Perkins, Oklahoma? DVAuction broadcaster, they're one of our favorites there. Payne County Stockyards sells 78 steer calves, and I believe they were right off the cow, weighed 545 pounds at $5 a pound. Wow, that's going to be a benchmark. So if your calves sell good, weighing in the fives, either they bring $5 or they don't bring $5. But they brought it in Perkins, Oklahoma. How about Lexington Livestock Market in Lexington, Nebraska? They had 129 steers, weighed 8 1/4, bring 378 on Friday, and that's definitely nothing to sneeze at. But the most impressive quote that I saw late last week or over the weekend, and your Macrocin, no BS, top quote for the day, come out of Tama Livestock Auction in Tama, Iowa. Another DV broadcaster there. They had 3 loads of steers, weighed 7 6 bits, bring 389. Follow that. That's your feeder flash for Monday.